What is, excuse me, what is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. We are live right now on both Rockfin and YouTube, but give me 1 second so we can make sure Rockfin is up and running. And then we'll go ahead and get this show on the road. How's everybody doing this morning? I know it's a little bit of an early morning for some of you, but those of you who have been around for a while, y'all know I love my early mornings, man. I love my early mornings. It's the best time to think. It looks like we're good. Yeah, I think we're good right now. All right, cool. So we are live on both Rockfin and YouTube. Let's get the show on the road. What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. And of course, as always, I'm your humble host, Niko House. Right now, we are live, baby, on Rockfin and on YouTube. And before we even get into this crazy story, I do want to just once again give a shout out to all the people who have been following us on Rockfin. Y'all know at this point, I'm sure we did hit 20,000 Rockfin subscribers. And by the way, it isn't just my page or the MCSC page has grown. Slow News Day just hit 11,000 on Rockfin also. And so what it looks like, in my humble opinion, is that not only is Rockfin growing, but you're seeing kind of a rejection of the milquetoast journalism that we've seen in the past. And we're also seeing what happens whenever, you allow the truth to rise to the top, and you let the content speak for itself. And Rockfin has always done a fantastic job doing that. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Rockfin and that crew. Thank you all so much for providing the space for us to continue to tell our truths. Unlike YouTube, who loves to censor us regardless of whether we're telling the truth or not. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get the show on the road. So it was reported late last night that the assassins were supposedly posing as DEA agents. Did you all know at this point, the Haitian President, Jovenel Moise, was assassinated, killed in his home. His wife was shot as well, but luckily, unfortunately for his wife, she is only in the hospital right now. She is still alive. The assassins some of them were killed, some of them were captured. And apparently when they were captured, it was considered a DEA operation. Let's go ahead and check out this Reuters story. Talk about it. Yeah, right. So in case y'all don't know, by the way, also, this is a dictator. The U.S. propped him up and he's a puppet. I feel like that's a pretty important part of the story. So let's go ahead and get into it. Gunmen who assassinated Haitian President Jovenel Moise falsely identified themselves as agents from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, or the DEA. The Haitian ambassador to the United States said on Wednesday, citing video footage the government has in its possession. Yeah, this is going to get good. No way they were DEA agents, bullshit Edmond told Reuters in an interview hours after Moise was shot dead and his wife was wounded by unidentified gunmen in their private residence overnight, stirring fears of a breakdown in order in the impoverished Caribbean nation already reeling from rampant gang violence and facing a constitutional crisis. Bruh. So in case you don't know what that means, whenever there is a lack of order, if there's a constitutional crisis, I don't know if y'all have heard those words thrown around in the United States ever since the January 6th incident, where they throw out the word riots, right? And then what followed very shortly. I independently verify the authenticity of the imagery circulating in social media online. That is always a recipe for accurate reporting, by the way. Mind you, once again, if a little independent channel like MCSC reported something like that, just accepted someone's word for it without independently verifying it, we would be censored from YouTube. And even if we did our due diligence, we would still be censored from YouTube. Let's be honest. Article goes on to say that Edmond urged the United States to provide security assistance to help strengthen the national police, including through training and equipment, adding that the U.S. officials had told him they would assess the request. He declined to name the officials, but said he would be in touch with the White House and the State Department. He said, the issue is the national police is under-equipped. It needs more equipment. Therefore, it is very important for the U.S. to help us on this so we can create a better environment, a peaceful environment for the elections to come. Bruh. Let me tell y'all something. They're not even trying anymore. I don't know if you all remember, but yesterday, Steve and I from Slow News Day, we covered this story, right? We covered this story. We told y'all what? Here we go. The president gets assassinated, but he was a puppet, and it probably has something to do with the fact that they want to somehow use this to the U.S.'s advantage. Either he's outgrown his usefulness, or he is, for whatever reason, not in lockstep with the U.S. empire. I leaned more so towards outgrown his usefulness. And me and Steve both said, I literally tweeted out yesterday, right? What did I tweet out? First thing in the morning. I said, looks like U.S. is about to bring some liberation to Haiti. And some people who may not be familiar with politics were like, what? Why would they do that? It was a Haitian president who was assassinated by Haitian people or the opposition. I don't understand what that's to do with the U.S. Look, U.S. puppets don't get assassinated without the go-ahead green light from the United States State Department. That's just not how things work when it comes to world politics. Now, before we get into that, before we get into the let's get some funding from the U.S. part, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. There was a claim that these people were DEA. There is some footage of them saying it. There is some footage of them apparently yelling that this is a DEA operation. And the footage is not being released to anybody. I don't know if that was really, I don't know if, I'm not, look, I wish I could tell y'all, yeah, they're definitely 100% posing as DEA. What I do know is they were speaking Spanish. What I do know is oftentimes we pay Colombian mercenaries to do our job for us when it comes to the global south. We've used them to try and assassinate Maduro. Maduro just said the other day, the U.S. tried to assassinate him again. We've used them to try to assassinate Maduro. We've used them to try to assassinate other leaders in the global south. We work very closely with Colombia. We use them to create a blockade of supplies to Venezuela and Bolivia. Like, we've used Colombia to do our dirty work regularly. And everybody knows at this point that the U.S. kind of has a pretty extensive history of using, drug, and more specifically the DEA's presence in Colombia for our personal advantage, because the DEA was nothing more than like a undercover money laundering operation and drug. Like, they were the biggest drug dealers in the goddamn world. At this point, I feel like everybody knows this. It's basically a CIA operation that was just, hey, your job is to specifically do drug corruption. We're going to do all the other stuff. Y'all just do drug corruption because we just want to compartmentalize that. You know what I'm saying? Make sure it gets done correctly. Everybody knows the history of DEA in Colombia. Even if you don't know it specifically, you know about it. Okay? So I can't even rule out that this is just bullshit and they actually were DEA agents and they were told by, at least, okay, I won't say they were, but they were under the impression that they were doing a DEA operation. I can't rule that out. Well, would I? They were speaking Spanish. It's in the global south. It's Haiti. And they won't show us video footage. So no, I'm not going to rule out that they were DEA agents. My guess is it's a CIA operation. They told them that they were DEA agents. And y'all should look up the story of Cody Snodgrass, former CIA asset, when he was asked to do some work for the CIA. And when he said no, they immediately tried to assassinate him. They got his friend to try and assassinate him, actually, which is kind of messed up. But I do know that I'm not ruling it out. Now, to the part where they begin asking the U.S. for help. So the reason that assassins speaking Spanish under the guise of being DEA agents assassinated the president who was a U.S. puppet, the reason that they were able to do so is because the national police don't have enough weapons? Where the fuck? I'm pretty sure this is the president of Haiti, right? Wouldn't he just generally have security? What does the, general state of your national security state have to do with the private security of the president of your country, who clearly, if they got their raises, they look like they didn't deserve them because they didn't do a good job? What does that have to do with them? What does this sound like? What does it sound like, everybody? How y'all commit a coup of the Haitian government only to turn around to put yourself in a position to create another coup? That's exactly what this is. Wow. This is why the U.S. is a mafia, bruh. Like, you can't play games with the fucking mafia. Just because you're in the mafia, it doesn't matter how much they say you're a made man. You play with the mafia, you get mafia prizes. You can't trust the mafia. The mafia can't trust the mafia. The U.S. will come for you, even if the U.S. is employing said mafia bosses. Especially in that case, actually, if they're employing them. But yet, here we are once again. Oh God, law and order, we need more weapons. That's crazy because y'all had enough weapons to make people generally accept the fact that they have a dictator that was appointed by the U.S. and they couldn't really do anything about it. And they were out there protesting and all that good stuff. Don't get me wrong. But what I believe is, so Fiorella and Pasta on the Convo Couch live stream yesterday brought up a very good point. Basically, there was a change to their constitution, and change that was going to lead to the possibility and the probability of another election where Moise could lose. And there could be an actual, president who actually represents the Haitian people. So in order to, because it's not a constitutional crisis that they're in the middle of. The constitutional crisis was created by Moise. But now the constitutional crisis is that there might be some democracy. That's anytime that there's democracy afoot, that's a crisis for the U.S., especially in the global South, especially when it comes to the Caribbean. And if you know anything about the U.S. State Department, Hillary Clinton, especially when it comes to Haiti. So the crisis is going to allow an actual, Haitian representative to be president, potentially. So you eliminate somebody, the puppet, usually. And now you are taking State Department funding, or asking for State Department funding. Now, somebody want to tell me real quick, what happens every time a country gets State Department funding? One or both things end up happening. All of a sudden, propaganda is flooded into your country. All of a sudden, activists start being assassinated. All of a sudden, you got some random 32, 33-year-old named Juan Guaido who's literally never lived here as your party's leader and attempting to overthrow the government with his camera being held in full screen portrait mode while live streaming on YouTube in the most embarrassing coup attempt that we've ever seen. All of a sudden, your country goes from being absolutely beautiful and being one of the bastions of the Middle East, like Syria was, to everything but obliterated. And, terrorists just show up. ISIS just shows up at your doorstep. You went from no terrorists whatsoever to ISIS there every 5 minutes, no matter how many times you kick them out. You end up like Saddam Hussein. Yeah, or the Iraqi people. You end up like the people of Afghanistan. You end up like Gaddafi in Libya, who now has open market slavery. you end up with chemical weapons magically at your doorstep. And if there's enough funding, well, then, you know, the people just get galvanized so much by the gracious and altruistic nature of the State Department that they just band together and positions just galvanize. And that's how a lot of these leftist leaders get assassinated. That's what they tell you anyway. Every single time State Department funding gets involved, U.S. State Department funding gets involved, democracy somehow disappears in that country. Ask Chile, ask Honduras, ask Venezuela, because Venezuela knows a lot about what happens when, I mean, yeah, they're trying to survive, but like, we know that a lot of their struggles comes from the fact that the State Department won't leave them alone. Ask, I don't know, any fucking country in Africa. Ask the entirety of the Middle East. Ask Iran. Maybe Yemen. Ask any of these nations who have had their countries ravaged by U.S. imperialism, bro. A lot of us were suggesting, you know, with the caveat of we don't know. We literally just don't know the answer to the question. But a lot of us were suggesting that this assassination, quote unquote, was not just some opposition leader or opposition force, because at that point you would have to be blaming leftists in Haiti for that. You could tell that based on the guns in the Spanish speaking, they weren't just some random gang members, like some random Haitian Zoes that were paid, unless they were from Miami and just spoke Spanish because they all grew up in Spanish speaking schools or something. I don't know. I don't think that was the case. And we said there is a grander scheme here. And I got to give credit to the convo couch, because even though Steve and I speculated on what the grander schemes are, it seems like convo couch, Fiorella, Impasta, and Johnny were the ones who actually accurately predicted it. They were literally saying, this is about, look at this cookie. Once again, Edmund urged. Edmund is the ambassador for Haiti, U.S. ambassador for Haiti. Edmund urged the United States to provide security assistance to help strengthen the national police, including through training and equipment. Adding the U.S. officials told him they would assess the requests. He declined to name the officials, but said he had been in touch with the White House and specifically the State Department. And from his words, the issue is the national police is under-equipped. It needs more equipment. Therefore, it is very important for the U.S. to help us on this. No one else can do so. Nobody else, just the U.S. Has to be U.S. State Department. So we can create a better environment, a peaceful environment for the elections to come. They're literally snitching on themselves, bruh. They're snitching on themselves. He called for an international manhunt that would include Washington to investigate and identify Morsi's killings. You mean the same Washington that whenever they were on a manhunt for Osama bin Laden? You like these quotes? These quotes, I'm not even in the business of pretending as if I know for sure that they were actually hunting after Osama, given that Osama was CIA before he went quote unquote rogue. But remember, this is the same U.S. that they were like, we got to go hunt Osama bin Laden. So let's look in Afghanistan and blow them up, Iraq and blow them up. Make sure we blow up some Iranian militia while we're at it. Somehow end up in Africa too. But never mention Saudi Arabia, where Osama bin Laden was from, or Pakistan, where we supposedly found him. None of those countries were mentioned, except for Pakistan, when he was actually found. And no one really talks about, like, hold up, Did we just go obliterate 2 countries only to find the motherfucker that we were there for in another country entirely that was never mentioned? Is that what just happened? It's like, yeah, that's exactly what just happened. Seems that enough people are not outright outraged by that very simple fact. So this is the U.S. that they want to go on a manhunt in Haiti, which means they want to take not only the weapons and the equipment, but U.S. forces and place them in Haiti during their next election. What could they possibly want to do that for, ladies and gentlemen? What could they possibly want U.S. forces for in their, like, to be in Haiti for the next election? Why? What could possibly be the reason? Maybe so the U.S. gets the exact outcome they want, because that's why they allowed this ambassador to be the ambassador anyway. That's why they cheated to make sure the last dictator who was just assassinated won. And this security that they're asking for is not security to ensure fair elections. It's security to ensure that there are fair elections. They're not even trying anymore, bro. And once again, just really quick before we go, I cannot say with any type of certainty that these assassins were under the impression that they were working for the DEA. I'm not going to pretend as if I could be like, yeah, that's silly. No, they weren't. Yeah, Reuters said it. And then the Haitian officials who were literally in the pockets of the U.S. said it. But they definitely didn't think they were DEA. It's almost as if they put that statement out there. One, because my brother's funny. He was like, bro, that just sounds like some CIA shit. This sounds like the exact kind of lie, kind of dumbass lie. He said specifically, this sounds like the exact kind of dumbass lie the CIA would make up. The CIA, he's like, the CIA would tell them they were DEA. Yep, that sounds about right. Yeah, I agree with them. But it sounds like they were trying to preempt the fact that this video is about to be all over the internet and everybody's gonna know. I said this lab came probably out of a virus. That this virus probably came out of a lab. He didn't know that was gonna happen. I can guarantee it. He just woke up one day and was like, shit. So now everybody is trying to do this information management of let's give them a little bit of truth so that they believe all the other lies. So if we tell them, yeah, they were yelling that they were DEA, that there is video of them saying this, but then also tell them, but that's bullshit. And it's like, okay, well, what does the video say? Release the video. Can't do that. Can't do that. Well, then why should we believe you? We have no reason to believe that the DEA wouldn't be involved in Haiti. We have no reason to believe that the U.S. wouldn't be involved in Haiti. And you want to hear, once again, for those of you who are just joining in, you want to hear what their rationale is for why it weren't DEA? From the ambassador? No way they were DEA. Okay. That was his reasoning. I'm not even joking. I'm not joking. That's really what that's an exact quote. This is from Reuters. No way they were DEA. That's what Edmund told Reuters in an interview hours after Moise was shot dead and his wife was wounded by the unidentified gunmen in their private residence overnight, stirring fears of a breakdown in order. That's what we believe that there are definitely fears in a breakdown in order in the impoverished Caribbean nation already reeling from rampant gang violence and facing constitutional crisis. We can just make that up out of nowhere. That's what it probably is. And they were like, well, how do you know they weren't DEA agents? I mean, maybe they were under the impression that they were DEA agents, considering that the U.S. always and constantly interferes with y'all's elections. I mean, that's kind of how you got your job, isn't it? And he's like, you know how I know? Because no way. What? What the fuck? Man, I know some middle school students that would make great ambassadors if this is all they have to do for their job. Just say shit like that. How do you know that your country is right for the job? right there, usher in this new era in the Southeast African region because we just know it. We're ready for it. It's like, no, I think we need some like tangible like evidence. Nah, man. Call U.S. State Department. They got you. They'll tell you what's up. But we just know it. That's what we're on, man. It's crazy. No way. Lord baby Jesus. It's like whenever people ask me, why won't I take the COVID vaccine? I don't judge anybody either way. I just don't take experimental vaccines. Or experimental anything and put it in my body. That's fucking stupid. Especially when there's like a 0% chance that I'll die. And when people ask me, I'm like, well, I just don't do experimental stuff. And like, you know, I feel like that's pretty common sense. I feel like everybody should take care of their body however they choose to, and it's your body, your choice, whatever. And I'm like, they're getting mad at me. And they're like, well, why do you think it's experimental? I'm like, bro, it's been like 4 months. We have no idea whether or not this shit works, what the damages are. We do know, however, that all the policies that were passed regarding COVID were based on falsified, overinflated numbers. And that's not my opinion. That is the CDC admitting that they were suggesting the wrong testing method, which led to overinflated numbers, which led to overly paternalistic policies, which led to billions of dollars given to the wrong people, namely pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, who were just sued by the U.S. government 3 years ago. 3 years ago for healthcare fraud. 3 fucking years ago. And whenever people hear this information, and I'm like, so? Yeah, that's why. And they're like, no way that's experimental. Clearly and said multiple times it's not experimental. So there. Just like there's no way that these guys can be DEA agents or CIA agents, or at least under the impression that they were either of the two. No way. Because it's not custom for the U.S. to interfere in Haiti like, you know, every single hour of every single day of every single week of every single year. Bruh. Luckily, the world is getting smarter than that, though. Whenever I got my group chat like messaging me first thing in the morning, like, man, these motherfuckers is full of shit, and they don't even follow politics like that. You know, people are just like tired. For yesterday, they once again on their live stream, they literally said this is what it was, and this is well before that this article dropped. Yeah. This is, they knew what was up from the beginning. Fiorella called it, Pasta called it to a T, saying this constitutional crisis that they're calling it is just a ruse. They're actually going to get they were going to get some democracy. They were going to hopefully have the outcome that the people wanted, and the U.S. is trying to get involved. And the only way, the first step to doing that is taking out the current sitting president so that there is unrest, so that now you have a reason to be there. So go follow the Convo Couch right now on both YouTube and Rockfam. And shout out to them, of course, again, because they just hit 20,000 followers on Rockfam. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to share this video. Don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget this evening, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard. You want to be there. We have our Rock to know. They don't want to. But this Jimmy thing and this Kyle and Crystal, I've been trying to stay out of it because, you know, it's kind of drama. It's like kind of, you know, it is what it is. I don't really care all that much about it. But there were some people that were alleging some things about my guy Jimmy. And it got beyond politics, man. It got beyond politics. And whenever motherfuckers take shit beyond politics, that for me, I take personally because, well, one, I know what it's like to have people just try to go beyond politics to take your character out because they can't argue with you politically. And I've been very, 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 very careful about making sure that, like, no matter what somebody tries to say about me, it can't ever get taken that seriously. And also, I'm just not big enough for people to care as much as somebody like maybe Jimmy. But what we kind of saw from multiple people, the way they tried to smear Jimmy's character, knowing that he was being blackmailed, knowing all the facts that they knew, then simultaneously going out of their way to ignore who was doing the blackmailing, who was doing the lying, who was doing the kowtow, who takes the corporate money. And the fact that, you know, some of these people Jimmy considered friends. Like, Jimmy has his issues. Jimmy might even criticize people that he considered friends, like just on politics though. But he never ignores them. He never attacks them personally. He never attacks their character if he disagrees with them. In fact, what does he do? He invites them on his show. Now, if you ignore him and then lie, like while you're on his show, he might attack your character. But then he'll still give you the opportunity to come back on and be like, hey, prove me wrong, please. But he doesn't make up lies about a person in their personal life and their comments or whatever. And a lot of people, a few people, what they did to Jimmy, I know for a fact that they are capable of doing so because a lot of them did the same thing to me. And I stayed quiet about it, once again, because I just didn't want to deal with the drama. Also, like, not for nothing, but white people screwing me over is like a normal thing in my life. So it wasn't all that big of a deal. It was like, oh, whatever, move on, next thing, because this is kind of the norm. But obviously, the way it happened to Jimmy was so public and so kind of egregious, especially because it kind of all unfolded right in front of us, that a lot more people are paying attention. And not for nothing, but I'm pretty sure that I can tie up any loose ends of doubt that people might have about Jimmy's story, because I've had my fair amount of interaction with Jimmy. Me and Jimmy are friends for sure. I've also had a fair amount of interaction with the other people involved. And everything Jimmy is saying is kind of consistent with how he's been, the way I've known him. As long as I've known him. And what Jimmy is saying about the other side, that's kind of consistent with how they've been since I've known them. Which is sad, once again, because I know Jimmy considered them friends, and a couple of them I even consider friends at one point. So y'all definitely want to make sure that y'all following us on Rockfin. You can become a Rockfin premium member by just subscribing to the page and just joining. It'll say subscribe, like a big red button, for $9.99 a month. And if you do subscribe to us on Rockfin Premium, which you can do so in the link in the description below. If you do subscribe to us on Rockfin Premium, you get everyone's premium content, not just mine. So you definitely want to follow tonight, because even though I'm going to release part of that conversation on YouTube, I'm not going to release all of it, because, like I said, some things are important for the conversation overall. Some of the stuff is personal stuff that, like, if you care enough, I know some of you all support these people financially, right? I know some people really want to know how they should be spending their money, because they're just trying to do the right thing and support the right people and the right voices, and make sure you're pushing and sharing the right people. And so I know for a lot of you all, that's important to you, because it's important to me too, to know I'm sharing the right people's content, and I'm promoting honest people, or at least people trying to be honest. So I just felt like I had been debating doing it. I really did. I was like, I don't know if I want to get involved in this bullshit, but honestly, no one seemed to give a fuck whenever they were fucking me over. So yeah, you know, it is what it is. So much chaos in the Democratic Party, from far left progressives to moderate. Yeah, well, I don't know about the Democratic Party shit, because I'm not a Democrat, but You know, it's the great unmasking. I know some of y'all been following me for a little minute, right? Y'all been following me. I know a lot of y'all been following me for like at least a couple of years, at least since 2019. The majority of you, I would say. And one thing that I said was going to happen once again after this election, I said, boy, y'all in for a show, because those who tried to hide behind Bernie's wave, those who tried to hide behind attacking Tulsi, those who tried to hide behind fear-mongering Trump, those who hid behind AOC and the squad, they're not going to know what to do. And it's going to come down to two options. Be honest, or pretend you're being honest and get exposed. And a lot of people, way more than I thought would be doing so, are doing the latter. Can you believe there's still people trying to talk about Trump? Like, bro, we don't fucking, like, don't get me wrong. Like, he's an important topic when he's an important topic, but like, he's not the president anymore, guys. And there are people still more concerned with talking about Trump than they are with the fact that the Democrats have 3 branches of government and have been arguably worse. Not even arguably, they have been. They've been worse. Biden has been worse. He's accelerated. Any bad thing you think Trump was doing, Biden has accelerated it. Did pick one, and they some people just picked the side I just was not expecting. I'm not gonna lie. Some people I got caught off guard by. Others I'm like, of course. But the people who came, definitely the people who I thought were going to end up doing the right thing, because I've seen them do so consistently. Not saying they always get it right, but I know that they at least try to do the right thing. Those people are doing it. They're doing exactly what I thought they would. I know I've been on vacation, but I've been watching from the background. I've been seeing, I've been knowing, I've been peeping, you know, I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Others, man, whoo, it's getting bad. Look, Jesus Christ. Somebody brought up a good point today on Twitter before I go. They said, man, when is it going to get to the point where Cenk is like just completely down and out? Because what it looks like is that he's blowing through. He and are blowing through the Katzenberg money. The people that they had with connections aren't really there anymore. Like Emma, a lot of the reason Emma was with TYT is because she had connections. Her family is like New York political royalty. Like her dad's like works in that AG department in New York State, so like it's like that. But all their best commentators are gone. The ones that were most popular. No one likes Anno nor Cenk anymore. Not even their fucking audience. People just hate watch them at this point. You went from being a little bit contentious with Jimmy while still kind of like being cordial and professional towards each other, except for Anna's case, to now a full-blown all-out war with the guy who left you and took half your audience with him. And you're running out of money and you're no longer profitable. So why would anybody else invest in you? Ain't nobody likes Cenk. So that man, hey man, if y'all believe in prayers and y'all like that boy, y'all better start praying for him, because it's not going to look good for him in a couple months. If even. But Lord knows, some of the shit that they've done damaged the left beyond comprehension after 2016. And then subsequently when they started Russiagating and then smearing Tulsi and then defending Elizabeth Warren. I mean, doing all the stuff that they were clearly paid to do. Karma has a weird way of showing up when you least expect it. And a lot of people thought that they would be able to, oh man, with Biden here, this is easy. It's easy, right? Just hold Biden accountable. That's it. That's all. It's the easiest motherfucking job on the planet. Like, at least with Trump, there was the hard decision of, damn, do I be honest and like give him credit for the Korea stuff? Do I be honest and give him credit for pulling the CIA out of Syria? And can I be honest and like admit that Obama was the one who actually started the kids in the cages stuff and actually deported more? Can I, like, you had to go through that while figuring out whether or not you want to, you know, how you want to approach the content. Right now, it's Biden just hold Biden accountable. Hold Biden and the neoliberals accountable. It's really fucking easy. They have the White House, they have the Senate, they have the House. They have over half, most of the state governments. Just hold them accountable. Bro, you got the answer to the motherfucking test. Just do it. Just hold them accountable. That's it. That's all you gotta do. And everybody's like, yeah, but what if I attack Jimmy Dore instead? Yeah? That worked during the election. Huh? What if I attack Niko and Fiorella instead? Huh? That's also an option. What if I bring Vouch's racist pedophile ass on my show instead? Because, you know, what's the best way to hold powerful people accountable? By attacking people with not even close, to the amount of power as a president, and uplifting people who are protecting the power that you're supposedly trying to hold accountable. They literally had the answer to the test, and they fucking failed. What can I say? I told you a lot of these motherfuckers are stupid. I told you a lot of these motherfuckers are stupid as hell. They've gotten by on literally kissing ass and playing this whole, we got to reform the Democratic Party game. And not for nothing being white. Because white people in progressive media spaces can be dumb as fuck, and people just are perfectly fine with that for some reason. Don't ask me why. Speaking of which, I want to give a shout out to the Fred Hampton Leftists. They did a magnificent interview the other day with Justin Jackson and Margaret Kimberly. Sab, if y'all don't follow Sabby Sab's channel yet, go follow her. She did a fantastic interview with Jimmy the other day. LB, Surrealistic Studios. That's a mouthful, but LB. I think his YouTube name is just LB the Realist. I want to actually put his in there because I know his is the hardest to. Yeah, Surrealistic Studios is his page name. And then you got who am I missing? There's a lot of like of channels for black people that cover a wider range of issues that, because by necessity almost, they're kind of just better to watch than like people like Rational National and the Humanist Report, because they have no choice but to be right almost all the time if they want to grow, because they're being held to a different standard. They have to present themselves a certain way. They have to give a certain level of depth when it comes to their analysis that other people are not expected to give in order for them to be taken seriously. They have to be over smart. They have to be too smart almost. But although that, is an unfair standard, it leads to better, more in-depth content too. And these people they know their shit, and they're having conversations with people that others were unwilling to have. And because people are finally starting to see the value that those journalists bring, now they're even starting to go on their shows more, and they're growing because of it. So, like I said, Sabby Sabs, if you haven't gone to follow her yet, my interview on her channel was one of my favorites so far. Fred Hampton Leftists in general, go check them out. They have a different lineup of shows every day. Like I said, LB the Realist, I just posted his link in the chat. I don't think I'm missing anybody. Not that I can think of. If I'm forgetting you, sorry. I apologize. Oh, my mans. Oh my God. Unapologetic. Y'all go follow Unapologetic. I don't know if his shit comes out, because usually when I type his stuff in, And make sure that y'all donate to his GoFundMe because he fell on hard times too. Right as he got monetized, YouTube started demonetizing him. Fred Edward watching on Rockfin already. Appreciate you, my guy. Karen Sperry, excuse me. Thank you very much for the tip. But yeah, unapologetic. Make sure y'all go follow him too. Literal question for Monica G. What the hell happened after Tulsi? Oh, you mean why the world come crashing? Like what the like? Why is the world burning around us? Like as soon as she drops out, like fuck, we going on lockdown. Bernie Sanders down the river. Biden wins while not being able to remember what he ate for breakfast that morning. Trump all of a sudden starts pushing the same vaccines that he was kind of somewhat against. So he wouldn't even vaccinate his own kids. Kamala Harris became an anti-vaxxer and then all of a sudden started supporting those same vaccines. We got Haitian presidents. The U.S. is assassinating their own puppets right after they get elected now. And the most obvious fact. You mean that stuff? I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, I guess when you don't have anybody to hold accountable, or when you don't have anyone holding the world accountable. Why I think I used to tell y'all that Tulsi has her flaws, like any politician, especially one who had to learn basically everything and evolve on the fly while the world was watching. She had her flaws, but one thing you can never question whether or not she was holding them powerful and accountable in a very, very public way. When that stopped being the case, it's not a coincidence that Bernie's rhetoric all of a sudden stopped. AOC stopped pretending as if she was more left of Tulsi. It's almost like she didn't even know what to say once Tulsi was out. Because basically, I don't know if y'all noticed that AOC kind of like, whatever Tulsi says, I'm going to try to out-left her in real time without ever mentioning her name. Because I want to be the first woman president. And then like Tulsi stopped, she just kind of took a hiatus like a lot of us did. AOC had no idea what to say, so she just kept fucking up. Now she don't want to post anything on Twitter or Instagram. Y'all remember she used to Instagram live every day. And then they realized, she was like, man, maybe I should just shut the fuck up because I just keep screwing myself. Yeah, you should. But she don't know how to move. No, they all were like waiting and begging for Tulsi to not be a thing anymore. Because every time they would talk, like whenever Bernie and AOC and the squad and all these leftists voted on that military appropriations bill, lying and claiming it was a COVID relief bill without reading it. And Tulsi was like, what the fuck? No, I'm not voting on this shit. And AOC was like, oh my God, but look at all the great things in it. I know I literally haven't read this because I got it handed to me like an hour and a half ago, but like definitely I'm for sure going to vote for this. It's like, yeah, but what about the military industrial complex bullshit in there? Yeah, but like why do we need to read bills? That's kind of overrated anyway, right? I would rather just like make a margarita on Instagram. I think that's like more conducive to a productive conversation. Good luck, guys. You said, Jig Forever, I just wish that Tulsi would condemn the genocide in Gaza and be more vocal. I agree. Although, weirdly enough, she was probably the most left on the debate stage regarding the issue of Palestine and Israel, which is something that people didn't think was the case, except for she was. She was completely and totally anti-sanctions for the simple fact that it was hurting Palestinians. Kim Iverson actually highlighted that from her trip to Palestine. How like if Israel would actually be hurt by sanctions, they would just start bulldozing Palestinian houses. She was the only one calling out Bibi Netanyahu, and then subsequently the entire Israeli government by name wasn't trying to like, oh yeah, they're doing this because they're a right-wing government. No, they're doing it because it's the Israeli government, and that's their thing. But with that being said, she does not talk enough. She doesn't use her platform enough, in my opinion, to hold the Israeli government accountable in the same way she's held like Saudi Arabian government accountable for the Yemen genocide, and and even our government accountable, or, you know, just other ways that she's held other government officials accountable and governments accountable for similar actions against their people or others. She hasn't been as steadfast when it comes to Israel and Palestine, which, like, unfortunately it's a normal thing that we see amongst leftist politicians, unfortunately. Like, they can say the obvious when it's obvious, but then they kind of like pretend like it doesn't exist anymore. And I know that Tulsi understands the importance of issues that may seem auxiliary, because I see how good she is on issues like Julian Assange, and regularly bringing that stuff up. And so she set a higher standard for herself, where if she doesn't meet that standard, now there is room to criticize her, because we already know that you know what's going on. We also know that you have the capacity to figure out what's actually happening versus what the mainstream media is saying. So if you don't reach that standard, then that's your fault, and we got to hold you accountable there. So let me get up out of here. Make sure y'all subscribe. Like I said, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you go click on that link in the description, because at 4:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be on Rockfin Premium for our Rockfin exclusive show, and it's going to be a doozy. So, all right. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.